welcome to Enfield Congregational United Church of Christ. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. This evening, we are having another one of our Faith Exchange conversations. Faith Exchange is a series of conversations between myself and a community leader. I've been telling people for weeks, it's been a few months now since we started this, that this church was founded in 1683. And in those days, it was not the congregational church, it was a congregational meeting house. It was not just a place for religious meetings, it was a place for civic meetings too. It was a town hall because we were the building before there was a town. And so whenever you wanted to come to hear about religious things, this is where you would come to. But also if you wanted to hear about civic things or just the local gossip, this is where you would come to. Over the course of the past few centuries, we have kind of moved out of that central location in the life of the town. But we find ourselves at a time where you hear people say that we are more divided than ever. We are more divided as a country, as a state, as a town. And what we are doing through Faith Exchange is having conversations that you might not normally have in your day-to-day life because we have been so divided. So we're making the commitment here that we are going to have the conversation no matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or a Socialist, wherever you find yourself, even people who are non-political in other community roles. We are going to have the conversation. It can be tough. Living in community is messy. Come to my Thanksgiving dinner sometime and you'll understand. But here we are, and we get to have those conversations. And I'm glad that you are watching this evening in ways that you might not on a day-to-day basis. Tonight, we are privileged to have with us Mary Ann Turner, the chair of the Republican Town Committee. Welcome, Mary Ann. We are so glad that you are here with us.
I am excited.
I will tell you that I am excited because you are the first person that I've had sitting there that's like a statewide office holder.
Yes, well, you careful what you wish for sometimes.
I understand. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to back up and do the get to know you stuff. So you're originally from Windsor Locks.
Yeah, I made it all the way over the bridge, got my passport stamped, and my husband and I have been here for 42 years.
My goodness. So I moved from Georgia, but that's more recently. Whenever I was growing up, we made a huge, traumatic move. When I was about 3, we moved directly across the street. And I told people that I just wasn't the same ever since.
Yeah.
That was traumatic. So tell me about schools in Windsor Locks. Where'd you go?
Well, I started at the local one right next to our house until our government decided, our Board of Ed or whatever, decided that at 3rd grade I was going to be walking a mile to the South Street School. And we had one literally across the street. And my mother decided that was not happening. So next thing I know, I'm now sitting in St. Mary's School down at the downtown Windsor Locks, if you can call Windsor Locks having that big a place. But when you're in 3rd grade, whatever age that is, I don't remember, I didn't even know it existed. So one day I'm told, go stand down there, get on the bus, and you're going off to school. And unlike the parents of today who bring their kids and test drive the class and all this, my mother just kind of said, get on the bus. And long story short, I joined St. Mary's School at 3rd grade, and I will tell you straight out of the box, you need to start at 1st grade, because no matter when you walk in that door, you're not part of the team. And I got to stick around to 8th grade, and it was a different experience. But in retrospect, if I had children, they would go to a private school. My last day at St. Mary's School, I got off the bus, took my uniform off, threw it in the sewer, and walked home in my underwear. And my mother was not real happy about it. And I said, that's it for me.
Man, we are truly getting to know you tonight, aren't we?
Yep.
I will tell you, I went to a tiny private school myself that was K4 through 12th grade, and I started the first day of K4. So I was never the new kid.
Right.
Ever. Because we started together, we ended together, and we made it all the way through. So I hear stories about people being the new kid. I'm like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, right. And I will tell you, it's not always fun. But in the end, I moved on to the high school in Windsor Locks High. I did have the opportunity to go to Our Ladies of Angels, and it's pretty funny when I think about how life has changed and moved on, and the people I've met, that I would have met them sooner if I had gone to Our Lady of Angels, which is right next door. But later in life, God still wanted me to meet them, and I met them. So I always thought that was kind of interesting. But I went off to high school in Windsor Locks. I got out of high school. I met my husband in high school. And I remember that I didn't know what I was doing next. There was just like, high school was like that door didn't have a light in front of it like I'm looking at here. It was black. I did not know what the step was going to be. And one thing led to another, and I ended up at Asnuntuck.
With multiple degrees.
Yes. Yep. My husband and I got married. I graduated in '75. My husband and I got married when I was in 1979. And so I feel like I've been married longer than I was alive. And when I decided I was going to go to college, my sister, who's younger than I, was going to college, but she came home with, I'm going to college, I'm going to Eastern, thanks for stopping by, I'm on my way. And I was going to Asnuntuck with a full-time job, already married, whole different perspective on how you did it. And for those of us who are in my age bracket, back in that time frame, a lot of women were going back to school at that time, and because they didn't go from high school to college. They kind of had a step in the middle, went to work or whatever. Long story short, I started with a secretarial degree, because, isn't that what we all do? Or I could have been a nurse, because those were your choices in life.
Do you know shorthand?
I did. Never particularly cared. I did never particularly cared for it. But long in the end, I was working in combustion engineering, and I met a man. His name was Jim Olson. And actually, it's funny, I was thinking about Jim Olson just today. And Jim said to me, "You're more than this." And I wasn't really, and I was probably in my 20s at this point. And he said to me, you need to keep going. And so then I went and got my associate's degrees in business, and he was like, no, you need to go get your 4-year degree. And I said, yeah, but when I make a commitment, I have to see it through. So I got my associates in secretarial science and my associates in business management, and then I went I had a ton of credits for those who understand all that mess, and I ended up at Central University. I got my 4-year degree, and I was just going to turn 30 when I finally said, I've had enough. I was tired of it. I was going to school. I literally was going to school all the time. I went all the sessions. There was 2 in the summer. I went 2 in the summer. I was just constantly going to school. And I was working at Jacobs Manufacturing. And the gentleman I worked for, who today, if he called me, I would go, his name was George Koenigsager. And he said to me, when you get your degree, I'll promote you. Yep. And I didn't know that probably the day before they probably wanted to fire me. But George was true to his word. And I got my bachelor's degree and walked into his office and put it down on his desk. And I said, okay, I did my part. And what ended up happening next is, for people who don't know me, it's like I always live in the land of what else you got. whatever the job is. It's like, yeah, I got that part, but what else you got? And so working with George, I sold chucks. Those are the things that go on the end of your Black & Decker drill.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like Converse shoes.
Nope.
Not those kind of chucks.
No, you're the fashion guy. Nope,
true.
on the end of your and I sold Jake brakes, which you hear driving down the road and everybody doesn't want to hear. And so I was the secretary on both sides. I did all their marketing stuff. I did their literature, and pretty much, what else you got? And long story short, I took my interesting parts of my job. They hired 2 secretaries to replace me, and I went off. And for the next few years, I was their marketing communications manager. And I will tell you to this day, I have the most fondest memories of working at Jacobs Manufacturing, and it hurt me to leave. I loved it. Everything about it. I loved the people. I loved the guys in the plant. I loved every nook and cranny about it. But things happen.
Tell me about Projects Unlimited.
Well, that's kind of what happened. My job somehow, and I can't really explain it because it doesn't really make sense, my job had been kind of sort of eliminated. But then I got picked up by another company Jacobs is owned by Danaher Tool Group, which owns about 40, probably more than that now, companies. And Holochrome was in West Hartford. Who the heck knew what Holochrome was? Well, you want the world's best fastener? Now, I worked for that company. We were well known as the best fastener. And so I went over there and worked as their communications manager. And I was probably there about 2 years. And then one day, George Koenigsager, the same gentleman who I told, the man was amazing, he became the executive president. And George and I kind of caught eyes at a meeting, and one thing led to another. We went out to have lunch, and he said, "What do you know?" And I said, "Truthfully, you got more redundancy in here than you could stand." And the world was going down the just-in-time manufacturing, train. And my job got eliminated, and I actually probably eliminated it myself. And within about a month, I got a call, and they said, "We can't get our catalog out." I said, "Yeah, I know, because I'm the only one who ever did it." So they hired me, and the quick story on that is I mentioned combustion engineering. When I worked at combustion, I always believed that if I made $10,000 a year, I was rich. Okay? Life moves on. When Holochrome called and asked me to work on their catalog, and I had no idea how to write a quote, I called some vendors that I knew. I wrote my first quote and charged them $10,000, and I had to go buy a fax machine to send it. Okay, so I went out and spent $500 on a machine that I didn't actually need so I could fax this quote. And I'm standing there going, "God, do I send this? Is this going to work? Are they going to do it? Am I out of my mind?" And as fast as it slid out of my fingers, it came back signed. And they paid me $10,000 to do 1 month's work. And I'm like, "Oh, I could do this." And that's how it started.
You're going to have to teach me how to do that, man.
Well, the pandemic kind of put an end to it, but it was 28 years. I was on my own, and I did catalogs and flyers and design stuff. And I I did a lot of events, very large events, and sold a lot of booth space. And my customer base changed, and so it was fun. It was fun.
Nice. So I wanted to ask you about some of your local stuff. And folks who are here and those that are watching at home, I asked Mary Ann for her bio and the jobs that she had done. She sent me her obituary list that was 3 pages long. So I just cherry-picked some of the things off of it because we might be here all night.
That's right.
Right? So tell me about, you served on the Zoning Board of Appeals as its secretary.
Yes, I think that was 2007. I was appointed by the council to Zoning Board of Appeals. And for anyone, one thing about Enfield is most of the boards and commissions are appointed either by the council or by the town manager. And I can't say that I was always the first choice, because I applied for things when different councils were in power, and I would never get appointed. So I have to admit, when the Republicans took control in 2007, I wanted to be on a board or commission, and I picked the Zoning Board of Appeals. And it has been a wonderful experience. I've been on it now, is it 13 years, or I lose track? Whatever the math is, I've been on there. And it's almost like every time we have one, it's different. Okay? Zoning Board of Appeals meets only once a month, unlike planning and zoning, and they come for a variance or cease and desist, or pretty much those are the top two. And sometimes people just come in and they think they need a variance, and we just look at them and say, well, you know, if you just do this, you don't even need to be here. You know, there's stuff like that. But it's been great team of people, and my original chairman was Peter Yarum, Democrat, wonderful man, absolutely a gem teacher. And that's what you have to have when you're on these boards. You need someone who's going to teach you, because you're got your neighbors, I don't want to be so bold to say life in their hands, but they're coming in front of you and they want to do something to their property, and they want to be treated reasonably. And there's that, and you need to just follow the zoning rule book. So it's been great.
Nice. All right, let's try this one, because this sounded interesting to me. A member, the chairman of the Enfield Economic Development Commission, and was part of the subcommittee to develop the tax increment financing for Enfield.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. Yes. Economic development in Enfield has probably been a quiet group in the years past. It's not really an authoritative board. It's not like you have any real power, like ZBA, you rule, you vote. Economic development is more like a conversation. And we can make suggestions, but what I have found since I've been on it is it needed a little more pep. It was time to put a little pepper in the sauce. So we had a gentleman who worked here, Mike Cirillo. He was the planning and zoning director. I'd have to tell you, for anyone who had met him, he was a godsend to Enfield, and he's not here now. He moved on, but I will tell you, he gave me many opportunities, and the TIF was part of it. He broke us into groups, and our job was to start investigating this. And Windsor Locks had a TIF, and they put it in, and then we worked with the same consultant. And then Enfield, we put it together, and we worked on it, and I'm very, they wrote it, and I'm like, no, that's not how Enfield works. The Windsor Locks is Windsor Locks, Enfield's Enfield. And we went through it line by line. Long story short, after it left us, it then goes to the council. Then they do their work, and then they pass it. And how it works is that we took property like from the mall into Thompsonville, and it gives the people in those areas a wedge. TIF is, for me, is a little hard to explain, but they pay their taxes, but they get a little bit left that they can use to put back into infrastructure stuff, versus it all just going to the town, and it's a percentage. And in the areas that we kind of made the circle, it was meant for to bring more vitality to that area. You're not going to find the TIF all over Enfield. It's in a specific place. That doesn't mean that a TIF can't be put in another area, say Hazardville for some reason. It can be, but there's only a certain percentage. So there are some rules, but in the end, I got to be on it. We didn't have it before, and with me and a few other folks, we have it now. And it's just another tool in the box to bring people into Enfield. So I'm excited about it.
I've never heard of such a thing. That's nice. You are the vice chair of the North Central Health District for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, that was, the health district has 8 towns. Enfield is the largest. It's a taxpayer's business. They are not government, but they get all their funding from the towns that they serve. Enfield, I believe it's like $5 and something per person that the Enfield town residents pay through their taxes. I believe it's around $300,000 a year. And plus, so they're the ones who go out and they check the convenience stores to make sure they're clean. If you have food here, the health department will come through. So my job on the board was kind of more of a fiscal one. And to, when they were hiring people, do we have the money to pay it? We're going to do some changes to the building. A board is not the same as day to day. You're there for the big overview. And 10 years on that was long enough. Long enough.
So, Marianne, we get to the crux of why we are here. Now, I've asked each person that sits in that chair this, because this is why we call it faith exchange. So, we in Enfield Congregational Church do our best to serve the community that we are a part of, meeting the needs of our neighbors in whatever we can, with food and shelter and clothes and whatever we can do to meet the needs of our community. That's what we try to do. And we try to do that because we believe that Christ has asked us to do that. Now, Marianne, I don't take for granted that people have to have that kind of faith background or any faith background at all to be a wonderful community servant. But you have a 3-page long obituary bio of ways that you have served your town for a number of years. Mm-hmm. We won't say how many years, but a number of years. Yeah. Why? Why do you serve Enfield?
I can tell you the truth. When it started, I had too much time on my hands, okay? And Karen Jarmach, a charming woman, she was at the time the Network of Domestic Abuse executive director, and her and I met. And I was kind of like, remember, I started a business, and I wasn't, my old boss in my beginning of life used to say, I don't care what half of the day you work, the first 12 or the second. So for me, work is usually 17 hours, 18. I mean, it's just what I do. And so long story short, I met her. She needed a logo. I designed it. I got on her board. One thing led to another. She invited me to the Professional Women's Group. I became part of that group. And I was like, okay, and let's add this and that and the other thing. And the next thing you know, you're making world-famous chocolate chip cookies for everybody. So for me, it was like an opportunity. This isn't my town. Even after 40 years of being here, Enfield is a town, but it's a small community. And I have learned that if you started in first kindergarten or preschool and went through life here in Enfield, you're a townie. If you did not, you're a guest. And I don't care how long you're here, you're a guest. And people don't mean it badly. And so for me, it was an opportunity to meet people and do stuff and to work on things that I liked. Whoever wants to do something to do for free that's not fun, And my husband was like, if you could put this much energy into doing all the free stuff you do, you should be a multimillionaire. And I said, well, in my heart, I feel like a multimillionaire, so I'm good with it, But so it's kind of, for me, it was just one thing led to another. A door opened. And I do believe that God gives you what you need. I believe that if you listen, one thing, he offers you a gift every day. and he'll tell you what is available. You have to hear it, and you have to make the step. And I think I try really hard to hear it. I'm not always saying I'm good at it, but I do believe it gives you what you need, and I think that he has led this. It really was his job. I just held on to the reins. So for me to get back to Enfield, I'll be straight up honest with you. If I lived in Suffield, it would have been the same. I just think I found a niche and I filled it.
Okay, awesome. So you are a Republican. I say this to each person that sits in that seat as well, right? Like, I'm from Georgia. I know Georgia Republicans, but there are different kinds of Republicans, right? You know, there are kind of different flavors of Republicans.
There's different flavors of people.
Right, there are different flavors of Democrats and
Right.
all kinds of folks, right? What is it that makes you a Republican?
I want government out of my business. I want my life to be led by me and not by government. And I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I was a Democrat before I was a Republican. My dad was a blue dog Dem, and he worked at Pratt & Whitney for 40 plus years, and he was a conservative man. And when you got ready to register to vote, how do you register? You go with your dad, right? Well, I did. The only problem was I never, as we moved through life, and Dad and I'd be in the same room together, let's just say we didn't necessarily agree. And I would say to him, if you worked for me, I'd fire you. I mean, people are supposed to go to work and give a good, strong 8-hour day, and and it was then when President Clinton made that statement that we all know.
I believe in a place called hope.
That works. And I will not lie to you, I was sitting on the bed, I'm watching on TV, and I'm yelling at the TV, and I said to my husband, that's it! I have to change parties, I can't do this anymore. And I went down and I changed my party to Republican, and I knocked on the Republican door. And I said, I need to come play with you. And as I try to explain to people as they come on my town committee and join us, Republican politics, or anything you do, is like a bowling league. Some people join because they're excellent bowlers. They want to be around people and show how excellent they are. Then there's the people who want to learn how to bowl, so they want to hang around with the guys who are excellent bowlers. And then you got the guys who only want to come and wear the bowling shirt because they think they're cool. They really don't want to bowl at all, and they don't really care about the guys who are really good at it. They just want to be there. The town committee is the same. I have people who come in and they're excited to be involved right out of the gate. I always find you something to do. And for me, when I joined the Republican Party, it was a very different place than it has been since I've become chairman. My town committee is a very, when I came on board, there was probably maybe at best 20 people that would come to a town committee meeting. And I made it my goal to make it fun. And when I had a real job, as I always say, one of my jobs was to go out into the plant and get people to make incremental change. But we couldn't do it and pay money. So what did I do? Every month I'd go around a clipboard, say, hey, what's that cool thing you just learned to do today? And I'd fill it out. And then every month we'd have these big, gigantic, horse-sized blue ribbons that you'd win for your team. And then the best part was the president had to come down and serve you coffee and donuts in your, we used to call them cells because that's what it was, just in time. I took that same attitude to the town committee. Birthday cards go out every month because I truly believe that birthdays are special. If you do something for me, you don't get an email thank you, you get a personal note from me. If something's going wrong in your house, I'm in my car and I'm heading your direction. They're my family. They're an offshoot of my family. So my town committee has grown over time because I'm always watering it. And there are times when we're not getting along. And there's times when we're just having a ball. But that's what families do. So long story short, when I became chairman in 2006, I was only filling a term for 1 year for Greg Stokes. And then I was, filling that one last year. And I will tell you the exact words because I still remember them. I asked my town committee to give me a chance. And I said, if I do anything that embarrasses you, if I do anything that gets us into hot water, you will not have to fire me. I will quit. And I have been chairman now for 16 years. And it's funny because I always say to the candidates, remember, you go out, shake hands, kiss babies, pet dogs, and let me take all the nonsense that's going to come with elections. And I take their back. So it's a family.
As long as they don't kiss hands and shake babies. Like that doesn't work. The other way around doesn't work as well, right?
But you get the drift.
I do. So I am, like I said, I'm super excited to talk about statewide stuff, right? Like that, this is something I know nothing about and want you to educate me and those that are watching. So you are the state party vice chair.
Yeah.
What is that job?
Busy.
Okay.
Busy.
Okay.
We just elected a new chairman, and I had been thinking about stepping up the ladder for a while, and I think I'm extremely lucky. I had a great chairman, J.R. Romano. He was a great chairman, and then he moved on, and Ben Proto is now our current chairman. And Ben and I sat down before the election, and I said to him, I'm running, but if you have somebody up your sleeve that you prefer, I will step back because this is your command. And he says, nope, I wouldn't want anybody else by my side but you. He says, you work hard, you're blah, blah, blah. So we have been in the job now since June something. End of June, feels like a lifetime. And we're very, very busy because people are always saying, oh, the Republicans need to, we get back on track, or we're a problem, or we're falling apart, and all this. I don't buy that. I don't buy any of that. Politics is a blood sport, and people lob grenades at you, and you lob them back, and it can get pretty messy. But I don't believe that one party or another is better or worse than the other. Some win. It's like rugby. There's a lot of pushing and shoving that goes on, and there's broken bones that come along the way. Some people get the point, some people don't, but it keeps changing. So, to be honest, as the vice chair, it's a very humbling experience. I'm getting to go out and meet a lot more people, a lot more chairmen, which is exciting to me because I want to motivate them. I want them to know how special they are. To be a chairman is not easy, and it's not paid, just like all the people who volunteer for the town council and board of ed or the commissions. They're not paid, and they deserve our admiration, even when you think they're wrong. So long story short, the vice chair's job, I'm working on special projects, and it's going to be fun, and we'll see what happens.
So this might be a weird question. How does that job help the people of Enfield? Connections.
First off, when the Enfield, when you look at the numbers, is a Democrat town. It's changed over time to be more unaffiliated. A lot of people say they're independent. They're not independent. There's an actual independent party. If you're unaffiliated, it just means you didn't pick one, okay? So Enfield, when you think about it numbers-wise, Republicans aren't the largest pile in the clam box. So for me, when we started moving forward and getting more people in the room like you do in your congregation, and we started to bring people up to be on the council and running and being involved. I started to learn you meet people, and if you haven't figured it out, I'm chatty.
Me too.
Very, very chatty. And, it's not, I would much rather be in a room full of strangers than go to my high school reunion. I hate that. But I love being in a room full of people I don't know. Because when I'm done, I met you. And somehow we're going to be connected for a reason. So my being vice chair helps. And it really does help not just my Republicans, but that's how most people will see it. It's who you meet and what connections you make. And when there's a need, you may know just the right person to call, right? So it'll be, some people may not see it that way. That's just how I see it.
All right. Tell me about your work then on the Connecticut Budget and Control Committee. That sounds interesting.
Connecticut Control Committee. Can you tell me when I did that?
I can't. It was probably on page 2 of 3.
I can't remember what that one was about.
That's all right. You've also worked on state conventions.
Yes, a lot of those. But those were really connected, like, with my life. Because I did major events as part of my job, I'm very well connected with a lot of venues, actually on the Northeast. So for me to go in and work on those conventions is to help with setup, bringing in the AV, hiring the right staff. We're talking thousands of people, so you got to make thousands of people have a good day, have fun. People don't come to conventions; they're coming there to endorse or nominate or elect a candidate to move forward, right? But in the meantime, they're there to wear the funny hats.
That's what I was about to say. Do you make the hats for the conventions?
Let me tell you, you ask my 18 delegates what I do for them. I make sure they have lunch. They all get little blinky hats. They get the little to wear around your neck. You see, when you ever watch one of those conventions on TV, well, I make sure Enfield gets to be just like that.
Nice.
And I've had the privilege to go to the Republican presidential convention, and it is all of that. All of that. So
I remember watching conventions, both parties' conventions with my grandparents, and I still love it. I still watch both of them, right? I still love it because it's just the whole kind of, ceremony, the pomp of it,
it's
but also
a lot
the
of
fun,
it.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick one. When I was going to my very first one, and I had never thought that a person like me would ever be even asked. I mean, how do you even get on that list? And Governor Rell called me, and I was like, Governor? She goes, Mary Ann? I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm calling to see if you'd like to be a delegate at the 2008 convention. I believe it was 8. And I'm holding the phone, and I'm like, okay. Because really, I didn't know what it meant. And long story short, there's like maybe 150 people who go, and I make my hotel and all this stuff. They make all the accommodations, but you just have to let them know you're going. And so I had this big pink hat that was given to me for my 45th birthday. Had a big, huge boa, pink boa, and a crown. It had things stuck on it. I can't remember. I think my friend gave it to me. And so as I'm packing to go on this thing that I've never thought I'd be included in, I decided if you're going to a party, you need a party hat. So I head off to the airport with this hat in my hand, because what are you supposed to do with it? You would not believe, because I've never been to a convention before, I was on the front page of the New York Times. The people in UK were interviewing me because of this really stupid hat. And I'm like, I'm in. And yeah, it was fun.
We're taking you to the Kentucky Derby next.
It's just like that.
All right, so let's get a little more local then. So you have been the Republican Town Committee Chair for 16 years. If I want to grow up and be the Republican Town Committee Chair, what is my job description?
Do everything you want someone to do first. Don't ever ask anyone to do anything you have not done. If you need help sticking stamps on an envelope, then you better have done a couple thousand of them. If you need someone to make calls, get involved and just follow it through. What I find with volunteers is they forget, first off, they're volunteers. They're not paid, and they need to be treated differently than an employee. But they need to learn follow through. And I give people lots of opportunity to do that, but I will never let you fail. If things don't go square, it doesn't matter. I'm right there behind you to make sure that the corn gets picked, okay? And it makes it to the bag. And if we get to the town committee meeting and all the corn's in the bag and you didn't do it, it doesn't make a difference. Because when I stand there and go, look what a great job, Sam did. He's going to stand up there and take a couple bows, and Sam's going to sit there the next time the corn needs picking, and he's going to make sure he did it. But really and truly, I would say to anybody who wants to get involved, and it doesn't matter what party, whatever it is you're doing, just have follow through.
So I grow up and I want to be the Republican Town Committee Chair. How do I get that job?
You start by getting in the town committee. Get it. One of the things I will tell you that I have learned, there is nothing you can't do. If you want to go to a state party convention, just raise your hand. If you want to be on a town committee, come through the front door. Fill out an application, come see me. Tell me you want to have coffee, I'll buy. Just get involved. Just knock on the door and say, I want to get in. What I will tell you, it's not a place to fight. If you think you're going to come into a town committee, and I don't care whose it is, and you think you're going to change the world because you have an axe to grind on whatever it is, an armchair, you're not. It's a place to have cordial debate and go out and have a cocktail after it's over. It is not there for you to fight. We are people first, and we can argue about the process, and we can even argue about the law. But I'm not going to have you there to be mean to the people in the room. And that's why I find Facebook so interesting. It's like people can be so
Keyboard
mean.
warriors. That's what I call them,
Exactly.
keyboard warriors.
And if any of you do follow, if any comments I may make, you will find that I will always I'll sign it, and if I'll say to you, just call me. You won't have any trouble finding my phone number on a Facebook page because I will write it. You have a problem with me, you think you have a problem with me, or you think you know me, call me.
So how many people are you the chair of?
Our town committee can have 75 members. We can have all the friends that can come our way. There's probably, in total people that I communicate with regularly, there's probably a couple of hundred people. But the town committee runs by bylaws and state party rules. And we just had our caucus, and we have to follow it with legal notices and all that stuff. So the town committee can only have 75. Like the Democrat town committee has 100. We only have 75. They are broken by district. Mine is just town. Doesn't matter to me where in town you live. You want to join the town committee and I've got a seat, come on in. If I don't have a seat, I have an associate seat. If I don't have an associate seat, I have a friend's seat. Basically, I don't care what you want. Just come in the door. Come play with me. I'm fun.
Is there a reason that they have more seats than
Just
you do?
because it's just how they wrote their rules. Yeah, you can rewrite your rules. We just kept it at 75.
So it's been my experience, Marianne, that the more people you have on a committee, the harder it is to actually come up with a decision, right?
I would say no. I think you need a good leader. I think I will pat myself on the back, I'm a good leader. I actually keep people involved, so they don't have to be surprised. I think where you have trouble getting the cats corralled is when you're not being honest. Okay, so I have a board of, executive board of 9 people. We meet once a month. We talk about what's going to be on the agenda. We go over, upcoming events, whatever. They're very involved. When we leave that room, we have our town committee usually a few days later. And on average, out of the 75, there's probably 40 to 50 that'll come to a town committee meeting. And I get a lot of guests. And I get a lot of people who come to my town committee just to see how it's done. They come to watch.
See how the sausage is made?
They do.
Right. So if the Republican Town Committee had a vision, like what is the vision of your committee? Is that a weird question? Does
No,
that make sense?
because, people always sit there and they'll say, oh, Republicans don't have a message. That's not true. Republican really is about common sense. Let's make sure that you only have enough government that you need. You only spend the amount of money that you have to have. You want to keep your taxes in my pocket, not yours. Really and truly, it's the Republicans, both from the national level all the way down to little old Enfield, is to get Republicans elected. That's your job. But to also remember that the people you serve, we're not any different than your church, technically. We just wear different bowling shirts. So, but what I find, like tonight is a town council meeting. And at 5:30, they were reviewing the referendum questions that are going to be on the ballot. I will guarantee you that most people in town don't even know there's referendum questions. And there's a reason why you have them, is so that you can participate in what it is that you want your tax dollars spent on. And it's actually kind of interesting. It's roofs, roads, recreation, and police department. I guess I couldn't come up with an R for police department. But we need roofs on our buildings, right? You go and put a new roof on your house, we want to make sure our roofs are good. Roads, the Republicans have done, with the council, about 80 miles worth of roads, and I probably have that number wrong. But we are one of the maybe 80% of something, I forget. Anyway, don't take me to the bank. Anyway, what it is that we, in the state of Connecticut, Enfield has more road work done than most towns in the whole state, because we stay on top of it, right? Don't wait until your driveway is completely destroyed before you fix it. Enfield Republicans have been really conscious about that. So, did I misplace the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great. So, I will tell you, Marianne, that we in this church have been really working on community engagement and trying to find, kind of in the Venn diagram of life, like what is it that we can partner and work on with different community agencies, right? So we take up food collections for the Enfield Food Shelf. That makes sense from us, from our perspective as well. This coming Sunday, we're about to give 300 backpacks to ERFC because that is something that we feel good about. I would like for us to be able to think about how Enfield Congregational can partner a community engagement with the Enfield Republican Town Committee. I promised you that there would be no gotcha questions, so that one might be a little more gotcha than the other. So, if you don't have anything right now, that's fine. I would like for us to be able to think about that for the future.
Actually, I think, I'm not as sure as exactly the Republicans themselves, but the council, and I believe it's Lori Ungar, was working with the local churches. Probably was during the pandemic, but time goes by for me so fast I can't even keep track. But that, to me, was if you're not involved with that, and I'll have to connect Lori to you, because there's Lori from the Republican side, and I know there's probably a Democrat from the other side, because everybody shares these things. But as for the town committee itself, it's a little different, and I'll be straight up honest with you. When there's an event going on, like we're having our golf tournament, okay, that would not be a place for you to come and participate, because we're raising money for our upcoming elections, and it just wouldn't sound or be fair in a sense. But I think when you have, like, don't you have your big tag sale here?
We do.
See, I think what it would be more for us to do is we collect stuff and we bring it to you, or we find a way that we can augment something you do versus you trying to augment something I do. Because you're a political party, I'm gonna wildly guess that not all of you are Republicans, except for this gal over here. So, right? So, so
Marianne,
that's,
I will be honest with you. We are what I tell people is we are a very purple church. That we have people of all political persuasions who are part of this congregation.
and what usually happens is, like, if I have an event, you're not gonna get someone who's involved in the Democrat Party or the Independent of Connecticut or Enfield to come to my event, right? So what I need to do is I'm gonna turn this back on you. You need to let me know what you're doing, and then what I can do is get my guys to come play with you. Because it's more difficult for me to come up with something that's Republican and drag you into it. Because it's not gonna fit everybody's, the socks don't fit everybody. And you don't wanna have to then have, let's put it this way, if I'm gonna have a car wash, I'm gonna do it in the front of your building. Well, the next day, you're gonna have one for the Democrats, and then the next day after that, you're gonna have one for the Independents, and the Libertarians, and go on and go on and go on. Don't do that. So let me come play with you.
I'll take you up on it.
I'm already, you know my number, baby.
I do indeed. I do indeed. Okay, so we're coming up on another election. November's coming, right? I feel that way about whenever I have to prepare a sermon. Like Sunday comes every 7 days, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on another election in November. What do you have to do to get ready for that?
Well, it starts the day after they're elected.
Okay.
And you're always, what are they working on? The pandemic didn't help. People kind of went into the basement. You couldn't really extricate them. Normally I'm like, let's be on TV. Let's have a little snippet here. Let's do a little article. So this election cycle is a little different and the same at the same time. You have to find candidates. So I have 17 candidates that you need to find to run. These are people, who are you? It's your neighbors, it's your brother, it's your cousin, it's whoever lives in Enfield who knocks on my door and says, I want to be on the Board of Ed. Because you're volunteering, right? I'm not paying you. And we try to find the best fit for those jobs, okay? And so there's that first thing. And then I have to get through the caucus, which in Enfield and the Republican side, every Republican plays. Anybody who, I put it in the paper, and any Republican who's in Enfield, all 5,300 and something of you, could show up and participate. And I'm okay with that, because I love a party. So they get through that. And then you move on to meeting with the candidates, and now everybody, and I know that it can get annoying for they're elected officials until they're not. And right now, as I always call them, and now you're my candidates. Now you're my candidates. And they'll hear me say that. Now you're my candidates. And I will call them in the middle of the night, and I'll say, why did you write what you wrote, and what are you wearing to that thing, and we have to go have our pictures taken, and we got to get our bios done. I'm going to send them over to you. Please review them. Let me take them back. I'm going to edit them. Make sure you spelled your name right. If they write them, I just make sure the punctuation's good. So there's all the details. Get your photos done, but what are they supposed to do? What's the one thing a candidate's supposed to do? It's probably no different than what you people have to do. Go knock on the door and introduce yourself. And I will guarantee you, there's people in this room that'll say to me, no one has ever come to my door. I will tell you that's not true. The Republicans in the past 8 cycles have knocked on pretty much every door in town numerous times. It just means they may not have caught you home. But you'll find literature stuffed in your door because now they play mailman. So the job right now is you have to raise some more money, to pay for this is all done. Nobody sends us a big check. You have to raise money from your friends and family. And then you have to spend it wisely, and you got to keep the troops motivated. Okay.
So this is I tell everybody that sits there, this These events like this are great exposure for you and for the Republican Town Committee. So if somebody who is watching right now wants to help coming up to November, how do they get in touch with you?
They can go to our Facebook page and iMessage me. They can go to our website and send me a contact. They can pick up the phone and call me. They can send me an email. If I'm at my desk, I'll answer you. If I'm sitting, my phone is shut off right now. You'll have to wait till I get in my car. I'll call you back. It's not difficult.
And you're taking campaign contributions right now.
Right, but, you know, you don't need to pay to come play with me.
Well, I mean, you don't have to pay to come to church either, but I'll always take, whatever
Buck
you got.
here and there, that's right. I got to pay for those signs.
My father-in-law has a wonderful saying, and I believe it with my whole heart. Terry Chapman says, when someone hands you money, take it.
When my dad would say, you'd have $20 in this hand on vacation, he'd say, do you need money? And you'd say, yep. You always said yes.
So we're coming down to the end of our time together. People ask me whenever they're coming to sit in that chair, how do I talk for this long? I'm like, it goes fast. It goes real fast. But I like to end these on a more fun, personal note, right? Tell me about your flower gardens.
They're amazing. I have flower beds in my yard in Enfield, and if you want to come by 7 Meadow Road, you're welcome to just walk around. They started out like a little plot, and then because I had too much time on my hands, this one May day, my husband was off at work, and I'm standing out in the front. I've been noodling on this for quite some time, and I went out. It was sometime around Memorial sometime, and I went up to the hardware store and rented a solder, which I had no idea how to use. And I will tell you one piece of advice the man told me. I thank him to this day. He said, when you go to take it off the trailer, move your feet back. You know why? Men know why. Because the trailer's going to tip and it's going to cut your feet off. And when I went to take the solder that I didn't know how to use off, I stepped back, and then the trailer came down, and I stood there going, oh my God, God gave me a gift today. So end of the story, I went out and started digging up 60 feet of my front lawn when my husband wasn't home. And when he walked in the yard, he got out of the truck, and he looked at me, he looked at it, he walked all the way around, and the only words he said were, I'm not helping you. And today, years later, my gardens are just gigantic, and they go all the way around the house, and then the next thing the back, and then around this, and over there, over here, they're everywhere. So please come see.
Nice.
Please come see.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the people that are here and those that are watching at home that I haven't asked? Now's your chance. You got a captive audience.
I have a wonderful family. I don't bring you down a downer. We've had some terrible things happen in my family this last few months. My niece was 49. She died of heart attack, very unexpected. My nephew was 53, and he passed away of a heart attack. And then just a few weeks ago, my brother-in-law passed away. He was 63. So my family is in complete turmoil at the moment. And we're trying to regroup a little. And so right now, people keep saying, we don't see you, or where are you? It's kind of like, I'm kind of hanging out in New Hampshire a little bit. But I guess for me, to you to know, is my family is great. I have a dog. His name is Buster. My husband and I we're on our 8th lab rescue, and Buster's the latest and the greatest. And he's 12, and he's an old man now. And we only take our boys and girls when they're 3 to 6 years old, because I am not a baby type of guy. As much as I have no children of my own, I have plenty of nieces and nephews that I kind of dote on. But long story short, my dog is he's a cutie pie. And if you see me, it's very rare not to see Buster Brown, like, right with me. Because if I'm in town hall, Buster's with me. If I'm out and about, Buster's with me, because he's like my sidekick. So my family, I guess it would be family.
Awesome. Well, Marianne, thank you for being here with us
I
tonight.
appreciate it. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Friends, we have one more Faith Exchange during the month of August. That will be August 23rd, and we will welcome for our Faith Exchange Bob Crusati, who is a member of the Town Council. Outside of this, just a church event that we are welcoming the community to, this Saturday, we are having a free ice cream social. So come on out to invite your friends, your family, your neighbor, your kids, whoever you got. Buster Brown is welcome. And we will have free ice cream and sprinkles. Bring a chair, bring a blanket, and we will be out on the front lawn of the church. That is 2 p.m. on Saturday. Until I see you again, good night.